to the property lane where it's everything real estate. Once again, my name is Catherine Nanteza and I'm your host tonight. We will be discussing real estate investment and what you need to know. We will look at the trends, we will look at money, what role does money play in real estate investment. We will also be looking at real estate investment in different countries. And ladies and gentlemen, dear viewers, tonight we have your favorite guest. Joining us once again is the country director of Brawl Uganda, the board member of Area Uganda, in charge of education, and a very well-known real estate expert, Mr. Moses Lutalo Emrix. I always want to say that. Yeah. Yes. Please say hi to the viewers.
Good evening, viewers. Thank you, Catherine, for that humble introduction. I'm humbled. Always good to be here, to be participating in, how we better real estate in our country. Thank you.
You're welcome, Moses. Moses works with Brawl Uganda, and Brawl has several branches in different African countries. So yes, we want to know, what does it take to invest in other African countries? Ladies and gentlemen, we have another guest flying in all the way from Lagos, Nigeria. You all know the real estate sector in Nigeria. We are trying to catch up with what is happening in Abuja, and would love to tap into this expertise and knowledge. He's also an IT expert and building apps in the real estate sector. We will be getting to know more about that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me the proprietor of Live Easy, Mr. Tochi Adesani. I hope I said that right.
Yeah. You got it well. Thank you very much for having me on your show. It's nice to be here, and it's nice to see how Uganda is thriving also. Not only Lagos, okay. Uganda is thriving also, but we believe that we can make it better. Thanks for having me on the show.
You're welcome. Straight to you, Moses. With your experience in investing in not just one country, not two, but more than that, what do you think we need to know in some of these countries, starting with Uganda? What do you need to invest in Uganda? We are trying to draw all the money into Uganda. We want to see real estate tourism and all these investors coming and bringing all that money here. What must they know?
Yes, thank you very much, Catherine, for that question. And as someone who has been enabling real estate investors to come into Uganda,
yes,
or any other part of the world, working with a Pan-African group with presence in 14 countries,
wow,
we've come across companies trying to invest in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Uganda, in Kenya, in Tanzania, in Rwanda, across the African continent. And the one question that all investors start with is, how much information is available on that market we're going into? If it's real estate, can we put a number to the disposable income? How many people need housing? How many people are in that country? Is the macroeconomics working? How is the political risk like? How is the rules around repatriation of capital? So a lot of some of this information is generally available from the different country reports. But when it comes to real estate specifically, the data that interests investors is what is lacking. And this data can go all the way from disposable incomes, from purchasing power parity, from, land tenure systems, to, the whole value chain of how do you acquire a piece of land, how do you, title that piece of land. So there's a lot of opaqueness in most of these markets. And I think the more as, enablers of these investors coming into the country, we educate people, we provide this information in a transparent way, the more we're going to get, more sophisticated investors coming into these markets.
Okay.
And that's why many times they perceive the African markets as highly risky because of the opaqueness in the industry. We're not transparent. Everyone is working in silos. The data is set at different companies, different players. Even within, local councils or, government apparatus, they're not speaking to each other. So that inability to access information in real time credible information increases the risk of investors. So if someone is bringing money to Uganda into real estate sector, they'll probably price it much more expensive than when they'll take it to, say, South Africa or Kenya, where there's a bit of transparency.
Thank you so much, Moses. Is the story different in Nigeria? What does one need to know when coming to invest in Nigeria?
The story is not totally different in Nigeria, but it's a bit better because technology is fast growing in the markets, and because of that, there's a bit of transparency now. But you still have that large chunk of data sitting in, private hands in silos. So yeah, you could be able to get more information now in Nigeria, but we see opportunity for more transparency to be built.
Okay.
Yeah, in the system. And the second thing is most of the data available today are manually provided by the player. So what you have is you could have manipulation in some of the data, so it favors some side of the market over the other side of the market. So it's whoever has the control of the largest data that basically can manipulate the market. So these are some of the things that we see opportunity to change. We want to be able to have more real-time data that you can trust, data that you can properly verify, and more importantly, data you can have access to anywhere you are in the world.
Moses talked about tenure system. How is the tenure system in Nigeria? Can I own land if I came today?
Nobody owns land in Nigeria in perpetuity.
Okay.
You only lease land, right? And of course you
even out of the city.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, and you can. So we still have those family lands.
Okay.
And we still have government allocated lands, right? But no matter the land in the constitution of the country, you can't own land totally. You just lease the land from the government, and at any point the government can come and request for your land.
Wow.
So there's a whole lot of debate about this currently in Nigeria to see how we can change that system. But as today, you lease a land for 99 years from the government.
Moses, our tenure system, we have how many?
Well, I think we're about 4.
How many tenures?
Yeah, we're about 4. Yeah, land
and you can
system.
find all those in one location.
Yes, you can.
Yes.
And maybe just to add, only about 20% of the land in Uganda is titled. So the rest of it sits with customary land ownership.
Okay.
Yeah, only 20%.
So what are the 4 tenure systems we have?
So we have the freehold,
okay,
which is scarce, major in cities. We have the leasehold, similar to Lagos. Then we have the private milo, which can go, and then we have the customary.
Can a foreigner own land in Uganda?
No, they can only own land on leasehold, but they can't own it in freehold as it is.
What if they're married to a Ugandan?
Well, I'm not a lawyer, but I think when you're married, the situation sort of changes, your citizenship and all that. But I know if you're a foreigner, you can only own land from a leasehold perspective.
Well, from experience, one of my cousins was married to a Dutch, and they could not own because their name had changed too. Yeah, so looking at that, what are the trends lately? If someone is to come and invest in most of these African countries, what would be your advice?
Okay, if you look
where should they put their money?
Well, I think at the end of it all, you want to know who wants to invest, because there are different sorts of investors.
Okay.
You have private equity investors, you have, high net worth individuals, you have, impact funds, you have all these sorts of, different people, and they look out for different things. But for real estate, increasingly, for people who are looking at scalable business, many of them are looking at how do you solution for the housing crisis in Africa. Okay. Whether it's in Lagos, whether it is in, South Africa, Kenya, Uganda, we still have, affordable housing challenges. People are living in, unplanned settlements. So anyone who is looking at, investments that are scalable, that's where you'd want to start from. Now, unfortunately, that's where the data is, not available to these investors. So
yes.
You want to tell them, okay, Uganda, you have a housing deficit of 2 million units, which is growing at 250 units annually. Who are these people? Where do they work? How much they earn? Can they actually afford to take out a mortgage? So if we can't answer those questions, even if the biggest opportunity from a macro perspective lies within housing, you still find investors going into maybe your retail, sort of assets, commercial office space. There's a bit of demand now in student accommodation, because for it, you pretty much know who your target clients are. You know the students in the university and they're available, and you know who is paying their rent, definitely not themselves. So we still have that challenge of, unpacking where the greatest opportunity is. But right now, if I was to tell someone to walk into Uganda, I think, assets like prime office space, grade A, green rated buildings, a bit of, data center opportunities, student accommodation, then affordable housing. There's a lot of, demand for that. Which we still need to do a lot of work on as professionals to avail data in real time that investors want to make these opportunities investment grade.
Thank you. And to my brother in Nigeria, if we were to walk into Nigeria, I know many Ugandans would love to explore that. Where would we put our money?
Lagos has very, very aggressive opportunity. Aggressive because the market is very active. Because that's where the largest commercial transaction happen in Nigeria. So if you are coming to Nigeria, everybody first puts their money in Lagos, so real estate booms very well. It is very lucrative, but it also has its, like every other real estate industry, has its pros and cons. But Lagos promises very good real estate opportunity where you can grow your money in very short period of time if well invested.
How long does it take to recoup your money in terms of return on investment?
Location, like real estate is, it depends on location, right? So there are locations.
So what are the best locations? Anyone coming into
You want to recoup your money, you want to be thinking about the islands.
Okay.
Right? You want to be thinking about the island, and then there are strategic places in the mainlands that places like places we call Yaba, Ikeja, which is the headquarters of the Lagos State's administrative offices, and you want to look at places closer to the island, basically, because those are where prime real estates are being developed, and where people with very high income that don't want to stay in the island come to stay. Right?
The return on investment.
The return on investment can move as much as 50% to as much as 250%.
Per what?
Yeah. You can't even do it in. You can do that. You can turn over your money twice in a year. Some developers that get juicy sites, they build in 3 months, they sell out, and then they turn over that money, put it back into another property, build, sell out. So in a year, some of them do 2 property when the market is very busy.
From the first property?
Yes.
Oh my God.
So there's a particular property that was being built close to where I stay in my estate. From research, he built it for about 150 million. The whole property, and it was a semi-detached. So there are 2 semi-detached apartments.
Is that Naira or US?
Naira.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So that's approximately about $100,000.
Okay.
Right? And he sold just that property, each of the apartments, for 250 million each, which is almost close to about $170,000. Right? And so that means he made a whooping over 120, and then he's already building another property not far from there again with that same sales that I got, and he sold it almost immediately he was completing it. In fact, he was already getting buyers before he completed it, but he wanted to get to the finishing line before he finally sold it. So there are some people that have built in some other parts of Lagos and they are still waiting to sell after a year. Okay. Right? So it depends on your location. You could turn your money, your turnover, you could do it twice in a year.
Wow.
And with very good return. So yeah, Lagos is a very beautiful place for real estate.
We are going to take a very quick short break, and when we come back we are going to look at which locations should you be putting your money in as an investor coming into Uganda, and what return should you be expecting. Welcome back from that very brief break. Dear viewers, we are still talking real estate investment in Africa and what you need to know. We are comparing especially Uganda and Nigeria plus other countries where Brawl has presence. And before we took that short break, Moses was telling us which locations should one be looking at when they are talking of investment in Uganda, especially foreigners coming in, and also the return on investment.
Yes, thank you, Kathy. I think for Uganda, we've traditionally known strong locations like Kololo, okay, Nakasero, Naguru, Mbuya, Muyenga, Lubowa. Those would be your ideal, locations that most people who are, doing residential developments, commercial properties want to be. Okay. But again, that is a function of your risk appetite. Investors who have a bit of, more risk appetite are going outside, CBD, because yes, now infrastructure is opening up. So there's no reason why, people like Centum Investments are putting up in Palm Marina, yeah, Garuga, the investors who are Royal Palms who are looking at, a long-term view on real estate, and they're willing to go and set up satellite cities. So primarily we're still looking at Kololo, Nakasero, Naguru, Mbuya, Bogolobi, Muyenga. Those are the prime locations that okay, people are looking out for, but we're seeing a trend of, others up into the suburbs to put up satellite cities.
Yeah, return on investment.
Yeah, prime property in Kololo, residential, looking at rental yields of about 8%. Retail shopping center yields are within 10 to 12%. If you're looking at prime office space, yields are around 10%. All these are dollar yields we're talking about, wow, which are attractive enough to investors to come into Uganda. Yes. And
the beauty is in all these prime locations, the rates are in dollars.
Yes.
I don't know if that's a beautiful thing for us as Ugandans, but what would make, despite the fact that we may not be competing with Nigeria, what do you think puts an investor at an advantage when they come to Uganda, apart from all that?
Well, I think the only advantage probably we have over Nigeria is this political stability. I think our governance structure is a bit more robust compared to what's happening in Nigeria, and he might have a different view, but I think from what we've read, in the press, there's a lot of regions that are sort of volatile. Yeah, so because investors don't like noise, they like peace, they like all that. So that probably could be the only advantage we might have over Nigeria. But otherwise, if it's oil, they have. If it is population,
also have. It's coming up.
Yeah, so far much bigger. So
do you think it will make a difference, the oil, when we start drilling it?
Yes and no, depending on how you look at it. But what we know, at least from the macroeconomic indicators already, the projections are our growth will be north of 7% GDP on the back of foreign direct investment into oil and gas sector, which is a good thing, because real estate is cyclic business. It follows economic cycles. When the GDP is growing, when inflation is dropping, real estate will get excited because we're seeing opportunity, and it's a good thing.
Thank you. My brother, having been in Uganda, this is your second time. Where do you see opportunities for investors?
Okay, so I'm more of a creative innovator.
Okay.
And so I don't see opportunities where the general public will see opportunity.
Okay.
I was taken to a place in Entebbe yesterday evening, and I saw a better opportunity than I was seeing in Kampala. Maybe because I came from Lagos, that has a whole lot of tight, you know, structures around it with very little space. You know, I'm already prone to look for opportunities where you still have spaces to do a whole lot of better prime real estate, better landscaping, you know, because one of the things I've noticed about Kampala is that there's still a very large opportunity to develop, and they are very interesting landscape property, you know, even outside Kampala. Right, the few places I've been outside Kampala, I see more beautiful opportunity, but there's still the limitation of being able to move income to those particular areas where you could see those opportunities, and the difficulty will now be how to make that happen, how to transit between people being comfortable about commerce in Kampala and Naguru and Kololo, like you've mentioned, to want to go as far back as Entebbe and beyond, where you can even get much more spacious and cheaper land to be able to do more commerce and even do better. And for me, that's where I see the opportunity, because I believe Africa is a place where we need to keep innovating to keep our economy sustainably growing and not always shrinking and expanding. So some people have to be dedicated to see how to expand the economy and not just manage what already exists, you know, which is what we do majorly in Africa, find a way to manage. But we need to have people also that are creative, that open up, you know, new economic zones, you know, new cities, new real estate opportunities, right? And we also need to learn the act of marketing. Yeah. We are doing very poorly in marketing. We need to learn,
especially marketing our own countries.
Exactly. And I think with that, putting those three together, I think the opportunity extend beyond Kampala, Kololo, and Nagari. I mean, I'm seeing a whole lot of very ambitious, you know, real estate developments in Entebbe. I've not gone beyond Entebbe, but
you're now in Nalia.
Yes, I'm not in Nalia, and in fact, the property we are sitting on is quite ambitious, and I'm happy that I'm meeting people that are also as ambitious as I could be. So I know, you know, opportunities will start opening up. Now we are here.
Now we are here. Will you bring your money to Uganda if you...
oh, my money is already in Uganda. The question is, will I bring more?
Thank you so much. Our dear viewers, we are right here at Edge Apartments in Nalia, a very distinct property. It's a beautiful rose, you know, in a place where you least expect it. Moses, what inspired such a property with... I think it has the most expensive rent in this whole neighborhood, and it's different from what we see. What made you dare or have the courage to put up such a property in such a neighborhood? There are many people who would love to do this and are afraid to launch out, like Tochi was saying.
Yeah. I think to speak to what Catherine is saying, you need to put yourself in the minds and you know, of the developers of this property. First of all, the people who came up with this development, which is Ascent Point Investments, is a joint venture between the landowners and other individual investors. They were not. This is not their first project. They first developed, I think it is. Muyenga Palm Villas. That was their first project, gated community. So they come on the back of understanding the ecosystem. So they'll do the right research, acquire the right site, look for the right partners, they look at it across the value chain. So you bring, because I got involved in this development in 2014. As
an agent?
As someone who did a feasibility study for it. So over the years been building, just to put it to perspective, this is only phase one. We have 5 more phases to come from here. But already one has been overly subscribed to. But it's not just the development, the design, the quality, but also the property management around it and how you manage the people living. It's a community. At the end of the day, the developer wants to put together a community of 160 units, which is self-sustaining with amenities within one gated community. Now, to keep that working, you have to look at it across the value chain, from design to, when you deliver it, how do I do the facilities, the property management, how does the Condominium Property Act play into that? So that is the sort of background of the developer. They know what they want, they are sophisticated, and they know how to size up opportunity and assemble a team that can deliver investment grade assets.
How long did it take you to sell out?
Well, the selling was very quick because even up to now, we're still having people asking for more. So already phase 2, we have booked already, people booking into phase 2. So it's because of the positioning, the quality of the work, the design philosophy. I mean, you'll find even the floor plans are quite unique. So yes, it's in Nalia, but we're commanding rentals that should be going for places like Naguru.
Exactly.
And we're very proud about it. And I'm sure the developers and the owners who have bought into this scheme are reaping from those benefits.
On prime location to move out, extend up to Kayunga. There is a lot of land in Kayunga and Mukono. In Mukono, the real estate, the properties are not yet. The land is selling, but we still struggle to find such beautiful properties. How do we attract them?
I think for me, Catherine, the answer to this is not sort of straightforward, but I think to the greater extent, all developers out there need to know they cannot be a jack of all trades. You can't be the architect, you can't be the engineer, you can't be the broker, you can't be the facilities manager. There's a reason why people go to school to study these things. Get into environmental circumstances which allow you to consult. I mean, the architect who did this design was from South Africa, but was supervised by a local architect. And you see the layout is different. You have a 3-bedroom apartment which
with
you can,
a very huge balcony,
which you can break away from and create a studio. If you can stay in your 2 bedrooms, you can rent out a studio. So it was well thought out. And we think that was a combination of the different players. And that's where most of the developers go wrong. You want to do everything, then you realize you're trying to put squares into, circles. It can't work like that. It's market driven. Look at what the market is looking for. Try to solution for that. And that's what the developers of Edge have attempted to do. And I believe even phase 2 will be speaking more to even the requirements that have come out of phase 1.
Thank you so much, dear viewers that have stayed with us. Real estate is so interesting. You can never exhaust it. From my guests, my crew, and myself, see you next time.
The Property Line.